Hello and welcome to This Woman's Work, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing women, the fantastic jobs they do and the paths that have led them to where they are today. I'm here today with Lisa. Hi Lisa.
Hello.
Could you tell the lovely listener what it is you do for a living?
Well, now I am an operations support manager.
Okay.
Originally, I was an executive chef, pastry chef, for a long time.
For a long time. Okay. Yeah. Right, well, we've got a lot to go into with that. Before we do, I always like to track back and we go, little Lisa. Mm-hmm. Sort of when you were younger, school, college, what were you like? What were you into?
School, I was probably a bit of a swot. I loved history. I enjoyed English. Quite enjoyed art.
Okay.
Hated sewing. It took me 3 years to make a night dress, which is actually still in existence.
Is it?
It got passed down to my nieces.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere in Scotland at the moment. So I'm quite proud of that, even though it took me 3 years. Yeah. But yeah, I was quite quiet, quite shy at school. College, I went to, well, at that time it was called Birmingham City of Food College. And I think that's when I sort of come out of my shell a lot.
So what made you want to go and do that then? Did you know by this point? So when you were at home, were you cooking, baking? What were you?
No, strangely not. Up until I was 15, I was going to be an architect.
Oh, okay.
So my dad's cousin was an architect, Stanley, and I spent a lot of time with him. And that's what I wanted to do. And one morning, I don't know where it came from, I woke up and I was like, I think I'm going to become a chef. And I think I just horrified my entire family. They're like, you're throwing your education away. I mean, this was the 80s. That time, chefs were people that didn't really have much education.
Well, and they didn't have the profile that they've got now.
Exactly. And being a woman as well was just like... No.
Yeah.
My dad, he's retired now, obviously, but he was a butcher. And my brother and I both worked for him when we were growing up. And he
in and around food, then?
In and around food. He was very passionate about his meat, very passionate about cheese. But he always said to us, you can either do a job like this or we'll support you to go to university and you can get a real job, quote unquote.
Yes. What did your brother go on to do then?
HR director.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
okay.
So he's older than me, so he went the sensible route and I became a chef.
Wow, okay. So went to, what was it, Birmingham?
Birmingham College of Food.
Okay.
So in Birmingham City Centre. So it's one of the top 3 colleges in the UK.
Wow.
Has about 5 or 6 restaurants that you can go and eat in. A bakery department. It's an amazing college.
Yeah.
So I did a 2-year course there, which was the old sitting guilds. They asked me to stay on and do a management course, but I just wanted to go out and work.
Right. So were you working alongside this?
No, so I went to college full time. I did do part-time jobs outside
but I didn't know
college.
if you were maybe doing some chefing or something.
No.
Okay, so then 2 years later...
2 years later, I graduated. My pastry chef, or my pastry lecturer at the time, he was like, you've got a real touch for pastry. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a pastry chef. I said, I want to work in the main kitchen. And at that time, I wanted to be one of the glory boys, which is like a saucier, someone on the hotlines.
Okay.
And,
so you'd already got a real feel for what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And I was like, you're pushing me into pastry because I'm a woman and I don't want to do it. So I left college, went to work for the De Vere Group, hotel group.
And was that a hard interview selection process?
Not really, no.
Luckily you'd gone to the right place for college.
Yeah. So I started off in Kenilworth. They used to have a hotel in Kenilworth. So I went there for a couple of years, and I did end up in pastry. The head chef at the time, he was half German, half English, crazy chef. It was a very traditional kitchen.
Right.
So there was about...
And very German, was it?
Yeah, he was very strict.
Yes.
So there was about 20 of us in the kitchen, and I was one of 2 girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that like? And how did they treat you? I mean, obviously,
you grow up
say
very
what you
fast.
want to say.
Yeah, you grow up very fast.
Because there was no filter, I'm guessing.
There
they
is
just said...
zero filter. Zero filter. So kitchens, hotel kitchens at that time, the conversations were basically cooking, football and sex.
Yeah. And probably all quite graphic
and
as well.
all very graphic.
Wow, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I did learn a lot. We used to do the Royal Show in Stoneleigh. So that was quite an experience because we used to cater for the royal family.
Wow.
So it was like a week of basically zero sleep. But we would be going shuttling all the lunch and afternoon teas and for Queen Mom and the Queen and...
Oh my gosh.
Plus looking after the guests in the hotel, and we had function facilities as well. So it was basically full on.
Yeah.
I did the Ryder Cup a few times at the Belfry because that was the De Vere Hotel. So it was, in that sense, it was a great learning experience. But
Absolutely.
It was tough as a woman.
This is your first job though, out of college.
Yeah.
You've gone straight in, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've not gone and worked at a little local restaurant or something. You've gone in.
Yeah.
So you obviously had, you had ambitions for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when enough people say to you, you're a woman, you're never going to become a head chef. It just gets my back up a little bit, and I'm like, don't tell me what I can do.
Yeah. Okay, so how long were you with
so De Vere, I was probably there around 3 years, and then I left and went a complete 360, went to the Lake District to a very small hotel just outside Ambleside, and I was only there around 18 months. But was the head pastry chef.
Wow, okay, so it's like a promotion.
Yeah.
And also beautiful location.
Oh, it was stunning.
Yeah.
So I did 18 months there, and then a chef that I'd actually worked with before at De Vere had just been promoted to the head chef, and he came, we kept in touch, and he was like, look, I'm looking for a chef, do you want to come back? And I was by that stage looking for another job. So I went back as junior sous chef. So kitchens work.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's
talk
quite...
us through this.
I talk about it and people look at me.
I know. We all pretend we know what everyone's talking about. Do you know what I mean? Because no one really wants to admit they don't. We all want to know. So come on, layman's terms.
Yeah. So the position of executive chef really came around about 20 years ago.
Okay.
Before that, it was head chef.
Yeah.
Sous chef, which is your number 2.
Yeah.
Your junior sous.
Right.
Chef de parties. So chef de parties run their own sections, appetisers, main course.
Okay, so they're almost specialists.
Yeah. And then the commies underneath.
Okay.
So that's how kitchens used to be structured.
So you'd gone back to be number 2 then?
Number 3. I went back as junior sous. I made my way up to sous chef.
Right.
So I think I was the first and youngest female sous chef within the group.
Wow.
I was about 23, 24.
Gosh, that is quite young.
So that was quite young, yeah. So really enjoyed working with my head chef at the time. I learnt a lot. I came out of pastry and sort of moved around the kitchen a lot more to broaden my horizons. So I was probably there about 4 years with him. And then opportunity came up in York.
Right. So when you say an opportunity came up, were you looking for an opportunity?
I was looking. So normally, traditionally in chefs, especially when they're younger, it's like every 2 years and they move so they can carry on learning.
Yeah, okay.
So an opportunity came up in York. I went for the interview. You normally have to cook. You spend the day there. They normally put you up overnight.
Gosh.
They offered me the job, so I then moved to York. I was there for about 3 years. So I worked my way up from totally out of pastry. I was out of pastry by this stage.
So you left that behind.
So I worked my way up to sous chef again. Yeah. And this is like a 3AA Rosette hotel restaurant.
Right.
So I did 2.5 years there. Then I was just like, fancy a change again. And I had a recruiter who worked for an agency, and I called him and I was just like, I'm looking for something
itchy
different.
Itchy
feet, time to look for something new. And so he said, oh, there's a position come up in the Scilly Isles. He said, do you fancy it? It's just the summer season because they don't open in the winter. Would you like to go? So I was like, yeah. Did a bit of research. They offered me the job. So ended up going down to the Scilly Isles and a chef tournant. So chef tournant is chef of every section. So basically you cover everyone's days off. Right, okay, almost like a supply teacher. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's
so I would
do pastry, I would do veg, they had a bar and then they had the main restaurant. So, you would just sort of work your way around the kitchen every week, which was great. Met Prince Charles for the 3rd time, I think. Oh. And at the time, there was a magazine called The Hotel Keeper and Caterer. It used to come out every week. And there was always jobs in there. And I was looking through one. I'd come home to Birmingham because this is where I was from. And I was looking through it and I saw this job for Bermuda. So I was like, I don't know when I applied. Didn't think anything of it. And next thing I know.
So how old are you at this point?
So I'm around 26 at this point.
Still young.
Yeah. I get a phone call. The owners of the hotel are in London interviewing. Can I come down for an interview? Blah, blah, blah. So I go down to London. In my head, I thought it was a 6-month contract.
Right.
I go down to London, meet with the owners, have a chat with them, and they offer me the job. And they said, it's a 2-year contract.
Oh, right.
So I was like, okay. And they were like, go home, let us know within a week if you want the job, because we've got to apply for work permits, etc.
So how long did it take you to decide?
The next day.
Yeah.
I think I knew when they offered me the job.
Yeah.
I land in Bermuda. Yeah. So the people that I'm working for...
At this point, where's the furthest you'd been on, say, on holiday or something?
So my parents, we used to go on holiday every year, so, but Greece...
Europe. So Europe.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're not in Kansas anymore, are you?
No.
Amazing.
So I land in Bermuda, and the people that interviewed me own 3 hotels on Bermuda, all relay and chateaus, which are very, very nice. They're not a chain. You have to reach certain levels to be invited to be a relay and chateau hotel.
Right.
Well,
of course. I mean, you obviously don't just work anywhere, do you? We've established that already.
Yeah. I was the only girl.
Ah.
So my head chef at the time, Steve, was half German, half Canadian.
Oh, another half German.
Yes, and he did not want this woman in his kitchen at all.
And were you his number 2 then?
No, so I had just been employed as a chef de partie.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But he did not want a woman in his kitchen.
Oh, no.
So there was about 10 or 15 of us in the kitchen. So for the first 3 months during service, when we were on the hotline, I was doing meat and fish.
Yeah.
Right? So I was here cooking. The hot plate was here where you'd plate everything, which is where Steve would be. And then next to Steve was Brent, who was his sous chef, who was from the UK.
Right.
this chef didn't speak to me for 3 months. I worked
like nothing.
exciting for 3. He would tell Brent that he needed this food, and I was just like, and I was quite disheartening at times. I mean, the rest of the team was great. I got on well with everybody.
Yeah, but you are just like the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Completely new setup. Don't really know what you're doing, and you've basically got
Yeah. So
nice,
after 3 months, he took me into his office, and he basically said to me, "You know what you're doing."
Oh, okay.
So he then liked me, and he would talk to me.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
It was like this.
Almost. So no one else did, but you had to really earn your stripes.
Yeah. So I did 2.5, almost 3 years in Bermuda.
Oh, so stayed a bit longer.
Yeah. So I randomly get this phone call one day at work from a chef called Daniel, and he was just like, "Someone's recommended you. I don't know who did this.
Ooh.
To this day, I still don't know who did this."
Ooh.
He says, "Somebody's recommended you to us. We are a hotel in the British Virgin Islands, and we are looking to go to Relay and Chateau. But I need some more help.
Right.
Would you be interested in another position as sous chef?"
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, possibly. Had no idea where the British Virgin Islands was.
Okay, so back down the library. So by this point, you've probably said only, what, are you even 30 now? 29, 30?
28, 29, yeah.
So back down the library,
So
get some more
trying to
books
figure
out.
out where the BVI was, and he was like, "Listen, we're going to fly you down so you can have a look. It can be quite remote." And then I met with Daniel and the team, and you know, he took time out to show me around the islands.
Wow.
And he
So
was
almost
like,
wasn't really an interview.
No,
In many ways, the job was yours because
yes.
you've come so highly recommended.
Yeah, exchanged contracts. I flew back to the UK, waited for my work permit, and then whizzed off to the BVI once it was approved. And I was in Virgin Gorda. So Virgin Gorda is the second island in the BVI. So it's called Virgin Gorda because apparently it looks like a fat virgin.
Oh, right, okay. Nice.
Yes. We did get Relay and Chateau status.
How long were you there for?
So I was there 8 months before we got the status.
Though,
no. So I was there 8 months. I actually worked there for 7 years though. It was a different way of life, totally different way of life.
And who were the people that were staying there then? What were they?
A lot of Americans, some English. The area that we lived in, which was called the North Sound, so you had Necker Island there.
Right.
So Branson's Island.
Yeah.
You've got Eustacia, which is owned by one of the guys from Google, which is next door. Bitter End, which was like a yacht club. So very exclusive.
Yeah, yeah.
Very high end. All the mega yachts used to come in.
Yeah.
You know, you would go and have lunch somewhere, some little cafe thing, and Mariah Carey would be on the
Just
next.
casually.
Yeah, you know. But everyone was very extremely laid back.
Wow.
Extremely laid back. I always remember because I met my long-term partner there, and he said to me, "Oh, I want to introduce you to somebody," and we went for a drink, and it was Morgan Freeman.
Stop it.
No, so he had a house on Virgin Gorda, and he had just won an Oscar for something, and so I met him, and I'm normally very calm.
Well,
But I
you've
remember
hanging out with Prince Charles for crying
I
out
remember
loud.
meeting him and shaking his hand.
But it's his voice.
And then I went to the bathroom and I was like literally jumping up and down the back and oh my god, I'm meeting Morgan Freeman.
I know, but he's got a presence that you can just tell in his voice. It's like iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, lovely guy. But you would see him walking around the island, you'd stop and sort of say, "Do you want a lift?" And he'd be like, "No, I'm good, I'm good." So it was just a different world. It really was.
So what was your contract then? Did they make you sign for 2 years as well?
No, so that was a rolling yearly contract.
Okay.
So Neil came in as the chef and Louise came in as F&B.
Yeah.
We just clicked.
Yeah.
Neil and I got on really well together.
So how long had you been there at the point?
About 5 years.
Okay, so you knew it. So you were
I knew the area. I had friends there. We would all go out as a group, and it was just a really good time.
Yeah.
So Neil and Louise were there 2 years, and then obviously Neil then got a job in Barbados.
Yeah.
And Neil and Louise decided to take this job in Barbados. And I think they'd been there about 3 months, and Neil called me and said, I need a pastry chef. Are you interested? So I said, possibly.
Oh.
By this stage, I'd been at Byra's, which was the hotel I was working at for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it might be good. Another relay and chateau. And he was just like, you would not just be the only pastry chef. You'll have 2 other people working with you. And the idea is for you to train them.
Okay.
And hopefully one of them will step up, and when you leave, they'll become pastry chef.
Oh, so you'll have staff.
Yeah, I'd have staff.
I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength left. I know you have a little life in you yet.
I didn't enjoy Barbados as much as I thought I would, which would probably cause uproar to everyone that goes to Barbados on holiday. I just found it a bit too overdeveloped.
Right, okay. I've never been.
So...
But you've just come from the BVI.
Yeah, which is, empty beaches and deserted islands. So we lived on what was called the Platinum Coast. So you've got Sandy Lane, the Cliff Restaurant.
Yeah.
But you could drive this road, this coast road, for like 4 or 5 miles and not see the sea because there was...
Oh, right,
and I was
okay.
just like,
Yeah, it's not quite... Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It
was... Don't get me wrong, I did not enjoy it. It was a different island.
Yeah.
And I was just like, not every island's for everybody, obviously. No. So I left and I thought, well, something... My partner was still back in the BVI and he called me and he was just like, there's a private island called Peter Island and they're looking for an executive sous chef.
Ah.
He said, would you be interested? He says, do you want to apply for the position? So I was like, maybe. So I got hold of somebody that knew somebody and I ended up speaking to the chef who was named Michael. And
gosh, you remember all the names, don't you?
Yeah. So then they flew me back to the BVI to look at Peter Island because I'd never been there.
Right.
So Peter Island is owned by an American family. So they basically offered me the job and I'd said yes before I got on the ferry to go back to Barbados.
Wow.
And then we got to the August. In the September, I was taking the month off because my best friend was getting married. I was a maid of honour. My parents' 50th wedding anniversary.
Aww.
So I was like, I'm taking the month off.
Yeah.
It was always really quiet anyway because it's like a hurricane season.
Yeah.
And so before I left, they said to me, we want to offer you the job as head chef or executive chef. So I ended up taking the job. And then I flew back and I had a conversation with the GM at the time and I went, listen, you're employing me as the executive chef.
Yeah.
As long as because the clients are happy, the owners are happy, the budget's in line. Because there's so many different hats to being a head chef. The budgets are in line, the labour costs are in line. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
As long as we keep pushing forward every year.
Yeah.
then I'll stay and I'll be happy. So he was like, okay, that's fine. And yeah, I put my own stamp on the place. We changed a lot of things. I created the chef's garden. I was very passionate about using local produce. So I used to work with the local farmers and the fishermen from there.
Wow.
But the amount of PR that they got from this, the journalists would fly in because it was just like...
Yeah.
And then we used to work with the local farmers on the main island, so we'd take the
So
guests
you were doing
over
all
there.
of this naturally,
Yeah.
which, let's face it, is full, like you say, marketing PR spec now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you were just doing it naturally.
Because for me, it was... I was trying to teach the local team, you know, this is what fresh cherry tomatoes taste like. This is what purple basil tastes like. This is what Thai basil tastes like. This is what, you know. So for me, it was time to give back, because I was always the only expat in the kitchen normally.
Right.
So I was always just like, why are the local team being so overlooked?
Yeah.
So this was for me to give back to them. And, you know, Peter Island did some very exclusive weddings, buyouts of the entire island, people flying into Falcon's Nest. We could make the island a no-fly zone.
Wow.
If somebody was flying in VIP.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've done a lot of stuff at Peter Island in the 7 years I was the exec chef.
I was going to say, so how long were you there for?
7 years.
So I wasn't sure you were going to go, oh yeah, I gave it 12 months.
No,
but...
I came back to the UK. I even bought an apartment thinking I was going to move back.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I thought I was done with the Caribbean. I was very disillusioned at that time.
Yeah.
I felt, not bitter, I just felt beaten up.
Yeah.
And I was just... I didn't even know...
That's the price of getting to that level, though,
and I didn't even know
7 years
if I loved cooking anymore.
Oh, right.
And being a chef is... You've got to love your job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, it's 15 hours at work every day. It's phone calls on your day off. And I do. And I've always said, the day I don't love what I do is the day I go and do something totally different.
Yeah, okay.
So I came back to the UK. I took a couple of months off. I did a bit of travelling in Europe, ate some great food.
Yeah.
You know, just looked after myself, fell back in love with cooking.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to stay in England. And then the next thing I know, I get a phone call. This is such and such a hotel in Antigua. We're looking for an executive chef. Are you interested?
Wow.
I was just like... so I knew this hotel, 5-star, but they'd had issues. They'd gone through a lot of chefs. Okay. Like a chef every year, which is a massive red flag.
Yeah.
And I was like, something's wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
So I didn't go to Antigua because they were actually closed for a refurbishment. I met the GM in London, and he was new as well. Okay. And had a conversation with him, and we got on pretty well. Okay. And so there was a lot of backwards and forwards. I didn't jump at the chance because I was just like, do I really want to do this? Do I want to move back to the Caribbean again? And so in the end, I was just like, no, it's a challenge. If I can turn this place around, there's got to be something wrong somewhere. This is why the chefs aren't staying. So I ended up going. I flew down the end of September, and I met with the team. I worked with them, and I was just like, listen, I'm here to develop you. This isn't my home. I'll leave eventually. If one of you take my job, then I've done my job. Yeah. In my eyes, that's it. Yeah. I will, if you want to learn, I'll teach you. You know, so I got to that stage in life where it was time for me to give back. Yeah. Again, we put in our own chef's garden. Yeah. Which was great. But it also meant that if I needed some alone time with a certain chef, instead of them being taken into the office and everyone's thinking he's getting a bollocking, I was just like, let's go in the garden and pick some herbs for service tonight.
Okay.
Something. And, I could have a chat with them and find out what was going on in their head. Work with the local fishermen, work with the local farmers again, just to, this is where we source our food from.
Yeah.
You can see the boat coming in and that's your red snapper for dinner tonight coming in. So we did turn it around. Again, we did a lot of private events, island hotel buyouts. Some of it was crazy. We did a wedding once, a fantastic wedding, but they bought the resort out for 4 days. He was from India.
Right.
She was from Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they had 2 weddings, the traditional Indian wedding and then the traditional church service.
And you had to cater for all of them.
Yeah. So they'd flown in their family and friends and they partied. Man, did they party. So I did 2 years. I had a 2-year contract and I was happy to stay. But the negotiations didn't go very well.
Yeah.
And during these negotiations, I had a recruiter that was looking just
casually. Just casually.
And he called me and he said, there's a new hotel being built in San Pedro in Belize and they're looking for a chef. And I was like, I've never opened a new hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, this is something that I really want to do.
Yeah.
And they were like...
What perfect timing then.
Will you fly down and have a look?
Yeah, obs.
So I flew over, I had a look, and I was just like, loved the concept. Again, it was all very much... the buildings there were made from the local Belizean woods. We launched it, we got it up and running, but I did find it really hard because we were opening this luxury resort and Belize is very much a beautiful country, but very much it's not third world, but the standard of living is extremely low, extremely low. And yes, the owner, who was a woman, we used to cook for, maybe 300 people every month. Yeah. And feed these people because they just couldn't afford food.
Right.
So we would do that on a continuous basis. She supported the local domestic violence shelter.
'Cause woman.
Yeah. So she was pretty amazing. But I found it really hard.
Yeah.
For this local... Just outside the gates of the resort, it was really hard.
Yeah.
So I did a year. I got the resort up and running. I got it open. I got the team in place for her. Yeah. And then I decided it's time. Yeah. I didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah. And then a previous manager that I'd worked with before had been talking to me a little bit. And he was actually in Antigua as well, but a different resort. Okay. And he was just like, I need a chef, Lisa.
Okay.
I'm in the right mess here. I need a chef. Are you interested? And I was just like, okay, let me come and have a look before I agree to anything. Yeah. And I had already resigned from my job in Belize. So I flew to Antigua before flying back to the UK. And had a look at the resort. Again, all the resorts that I've worked at have been privately owned. I've never really worked for a chain.
Yes.
So I like that you know the owners. Yeah. So I did 2 years. Obviously COVID hit while all this was going on.
I was wondering,
So COVID hit. We closed in the April. So we totally shut down, the airport shut. Yeah. The hotel, basically, the owners basically said to us, you're going to have to go on to reduced salary, which is fair enough. The end of July, they laid me off.
Right.
But they asked me to basically come back when they reopened.
Yeah.
And I said, that's fine.
Yeah.
I said, I just want to come back and see my family.
Yeah.
I was only home for about 8 weeks. And then they were like, we're opening the beginning of October.
Oh, for crying out loud. That was like a non-event then, wasn't it? I'm just going to grab my water.
So I flew back.
Gosh, but I guess equally, in fairness to them, it was such weird times, wasn't it?
Put the team back together, and then we basically reopened thinking, well, we don't know what it's going to be like. And in 2 weeks we were full.
Really?
Oh God, everyone wanted to travel.
I was wondering if you were going to say that it didn't really pick back up
It
again.
did. Everybody wanted to travel.
Wow.
Full, 2 weeks.
Because it was certainly in the UK, that almost for the next year it was a little bit odd, I think. I don't think the hospitality industry really took a real dip, didn't it?
It did.
But not out there.
Yeah, so, and then of course we got through, we were going into Christmas full, and unfortunately on Christmas Eve I got the news that my mum had been diagnosed with cancer.
Oh gosh.
So we got through Christmas and then we went into the second wave.
Yeah.
So then we went back into another lockdown.
Yeah.
I'd already spoken to the owners and said to them, listen, I need to go home.
Yeah.
My mum's got to have major surgery. I want to be home and support my parents. So I said, luckily we went into this lockdown.
I was going to say, it's kind of good timing.
Yeah, we had some UK guests that just basically lived in the hotel during that lockdown.
Right.
They could afford to do that and work remotely. So I had a skeleton crew just look after them.
Yeah.
I flew home, and then I was home, and then I flew back in the end of March for Easter. And I was back for about 2 months. My mum was on the road to recovery, but she'd had major surgery.
Yeah.
And I was just like, mentally I wasn't in a good place because I was constantly worrying about them.
Well, it's sort of everything that's going on with your mum, your family.
Yeah.
Plus a weird old
it's
COVID
just weird, wasn't
year.
it? Yeah. I think the owners knew it was coming.
So this is now what, sort of almost like summer 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said to them, I need to go home. And they were like, we totally understand. I says, I will do whatever I can to make the transition easier. And then, took Christmas off for the first time since I was 17.
I was going to say. That must have felt really weird.
It did. I'm so used to, like, how many turkeys do I need to order? How many this and that and that.
You're just, like, twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah, so it was great. Took Christmas off in New Year. And then I started temping in the February of 22 in the UK.
Yeah.
Joined an agency and I went, just throw me anywhere you want me to.
Yeah.
I just want to see what's going on.
You very much roll with it, don't you?
Yeah, I said I want to see what hospitality is like in the UK now. And I was just like, it hasn't changed. There's not enough staff.
Yeah.
We've
now got a massive staff problem. Actually, you say it's not enough staff. It's gone worse. It got worse since COVID.
So I was just like, I don't think I want to work in a hotel again.
Yeah.
I want a normal life.
Yeah. Well, give it a go.
So I saw this job advertised for what is an operations support manager. So it's contract catering, but again, it's a private group. It's not a group. It's owned by owners.
Yes.
And you know them. I go to different sites, so I'm not stuck in one place.
Yeah, okay.
I may be in Cheltenham this week, I may be in Nottingham next week.
Oh, wow.
But they're like good offices. You may have an executive suite that you're dealing with where it's all very plated and Michelin star food.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it, and I'm still developing a team. I'm still helping people develop themselves.
Yeah.
I like going to work in the morning and coming home at 4:00 and
again, something you've never done.
Having the weekends off.
Yeah.
I do occasionally.
So you're actually just enjoying...
I'm enjoying life.
Less. You're enjoying just a bit of less.
I'm in a new relationship, so I spend time with him. You know...
And I'm guessing relationships and chefing are not...
Oh, relationship, chefing and being a woman do not go hand
do not
in
go,
hand.
no. I think we could all... Everyone listening to this
Yes.
will agree.
Yeah, but... yeah, it's... I don't know what's going to happen.
I love that for you, though. I think that's great. Because equally, I know something is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it just always does for you, doesn't it? I mean, literally, I've known you for all of what it is, like an hour and a half. Quite clearly, something is going to happen, and you'll probably go with it when it does.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get a few of my structured questions in.
Okay.
Which are things people were going to want to know. So, like with chefing, then, and definitely the type of work that you've done.
Yeah.
What's best bit, worst bit? So, like, generally, surely the locations have got to be the best part.
Locations and developing your team, I think.
The worst
bit, I tell you what the worst bit is dealing with the unions and the government.
Okay.
So that was just a nightmare, and
Just
I was forever getting told off. Because
Right.
I can be very... I'm just going to say what I feel like saying.
Yeah. So my two final questions then are always, what advice would you give your younger self? So it could be any version of your younger self. It could be that quiet girl at school. It could be, you know, that first job you got. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I think it would be to be more open-minded about things.
Okay.
Just be open to new opportunities.
But and do you not think you were?
No, not when I was younger.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Because you were quite shy and quite wary and...
Yeah, and I was very much a homebody, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's not how your life has gone.
No, it's gone completely the
other way.
Yeah. But yeah, I think just be open to new... Just be open-minded to new things. Because
literally, in your case, you have no idea what's coming.
No.
Okay, then a bigger question of that then is then, what advice, or is there any advice you would, as you would throw out into the world? It could be for other women, could be for anybody, but advice as you now, everything you know, what would you throw out to the world? Could be a mantra, could be...
Be kind. There's always somebody that's struggling and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Take that time to smile at somebody.
I
You
know.
may make their day.
It's great advice. I know.
Always treat somebody how you would want them to be treated.
It's a great bit of advice. I think that motorbike agrees.
I hope so.
Oh, on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much, Lisa.
Oh, it's been fun.
If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go to our website www.thiswomanswork.org. The link is on this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.